Welcome, everyone, to episode 364 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteleresco. I write stuff in podcast 2. Part 2 of my conversation with Jenn Taylor will be airing here very shortly. But first, we are exactly 8 days away from the Cloud Diver being released to the world. All the order forms are up worldwide on Amazon. I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff. My first blog, part of my unofficial blog tour, I got some really cool spots where I'm advertising my book. One of them I can't wait to mention, but for now, the first place was TalinaWinters.com. Talina is awesome. She's been on my show before. She's one of my favorite people. She's a great writer in her own right, and like I told you on Twitter, between her and Susie Vidori for next year's Auroras, that young adult category is going to be super hard to vote for. But yeah, she was nice enough to interview me for it. So you want to hear my interview and a nice little quick review of the Cloud Diver, you can do so then and there. The order for the Cloud Diver is available here, so you can check the episode description. It will be there. All right, let's just get to my conversation with Jenn, shall we?
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
Look differently, maybe it will be more shared space.
Yeah.
So that the cost is less. But I think that this is going to change things, and I think that that's in a very good way.
Yeah, no, it's a necessary thing. Like, again, we cannot look. It's a new world, and it is a new world. Like, no matter what you think about this, things have changed, and they're never going to go fully back to the way they were before, nor should they, right? Hopefully what comes out will be something better. That's my sincere hope, and they'll be good, they'll be bad, but that's life. Like, it's never perfect, but that's the thing. That always means that the next phase can be even better, right? But that's the thing. Like, adversity creates change. That's the nature of it. So, we haven't even talked about your books yet.
Is that what I'm here for?
I don't know. I don't know.
I have one book. This is the coolest thing about, there's so many cool things. First of all, the first time I held it in my hands was one of the most proud moments, and having children, I can tell you, it is just like giving birth to a child. It's very similar. Lots of pain, sweat, tears, work, concerns, all of that stuff, and then you get it and you're like, oh my God, it was all worth it. And it's an amazing accomplishment. I know millions of books are produced every year, but I also know that 85% of people who want to write a book don't. So when you become part of the club, the author club, it's a really great thing that you should be really proud of. And if I knew then what I know now, I would do things differently. But I don't think the book itself, content-wise or anything, would be a whole lot different. I would have positioned it differently. I would have marketing differently. I mean, I knew nothing. And I'm thankful that I knew nothing and I just went in and did it, because I was very true to myself in doing it and self-publishing it. It's a story of my life growing up. It's called Hello, My Name is Warrior Princess. I grew up in a lot of dysfunction. That's a huge reason, like I said, that I did foster care, because I wasn't put in the foster care system as a kid. I should have been put in the foster care system as a kid, but I have been through pretty much everything that foster kids have been through. So if you have a list of things you think, this is what foster kids go through, I can guarantee I'm checking those boxes. So I wrote about my experience growing up, and I felt like, and some people wanting to write a book or who have may feel this way, you feel like you have this story trapped inside and you want to share it.
Yep.
And that's how I felt. I had a story trapped inside and I want to share it. And I want to share it because I got through it and I'm pretty okay, and that means you can be too. So a lot of it was so you feel less alone and to give you hope. And also because I wrote it in my 40s and it ended when I was 21, so it was birthed to 21 years old. You know, I had 25 years of retrospect, and so this is the toolbox of skills that I built, and to help other people build a toolbox so that they can get through their shit a little more easily. So I love the idea of helping other people write, so I'm glad I get to do that. But the podcast was born about 8 months later because that was a way that other people got to share their story. So it's kind of like writing a book with me in an hour on the podcast. And I don't necessarily tell people that from the beginning, but my feeling is, you're sharing your story of trauma and tragedy, and then who, what, when, where, how you got through that. So you're letting people know that they're not alone, and you're helping them build a toolbox. And that's all I wanted to do with my book. I wanted the story not trapped inside. I wanted to honor it. I wanted to get my truth out there, and I wanted to just try to make a difference to someone who read it. And so how fucking cool is that?
Yeah,
I did it, right?
Demolition Man high five. Yoing,
yes,
yoing,
high five there. So I lost my job at the nonprofit. Funding dried up, and I wasn't working there anymore. And I had about 5 months. I could not go back. We were okay for about 5 months, and my husband said, "Why don't you write your book?" And at that moment, I had to decide: do I want to be the person that talks about how I want to write a book but never does, or do I want to actually be the person that writes a book? And I wrote the book, and I felt so gifted with that time. That's why it's so big to me right now when people are at home and have more time free. I felt so grateful and blessed that I had that time, that I set a calendar and I did it like a job, and I wrote the book in 2 months. It was my job for 2 months, and that's how I kind of paid back that gratitude of having that time. Not only did I write the book, but I did it fairly quickly, and I did it because I was really grateful I did it that quickly. So I would do things differently on some fronts, but you
taught yourself. It taught you what you need to learn, right?
I did. And if you wait until it's perfect, it's like waiting until you can afford to have kids. You just never do shit. If you're waiting for like all the stars to align, it's just never going to happen. Yeah. So is it perfect? No. Do I love it? Yes. I'm proud of it. You have to meet yourself where you're at when you're writing a book. And I think I did well meeting myself where I was at that point. And so there's nothing to not be proud about. I may have learned a lot in the last 4 years since I was at that point in time. And one thing I've learned is that anybody who asks for it, I email them a PDF copy. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it, I'll sign it, and the whole thing. But if you want it because you're interested and you want to read it, I'll just send it to you because I would rather have it make a difference. Most of us who are authors know that the majority of our income is not coming off of revenue for books sold. So, I knew that going into it. It is true. I'm not going to brag a lot, but I think I made $24 last year on book sales. So I could take you out for a really cheap lunch when we're not quarantined anymore, but that's pretty much about it.
It's
so
sweet.
I really, really just want to get it out there. And if the criticism is constructive about how I could have done better, then that's one more way that I'll get better writing book 2.
Well, see, for me, if you were talking strictly my book sales, now my podcast I can't say that anymore. But my book sales, they're not great. But that's also because I haven't released anything in a long time. I find like with books is very much a momentum based business. Is the more books you have, the more people will buy your stuff, right? So like this book, although I did this ass backwards, I'm doing the audiobook right now because of the nature of the emergency. I'm contacting the ISBN, get my ISBNs and stuff going. Eventually, I'm going to release a digital copy. I'm going to make an announcement probably around episode 5 of Storytime when the actual release date is. The world kind of ended, so I kind of delayed my release a little bit because, it was a crazy few weeks. But again, when that book comes out, I know for a fact that books 1, 2, and 3 will sell a little bit. There'll be a spike because people will be looking at my stuff, at least in the short term. And then when I release book 5, which won't take very long after book 4 comes out, right? Then again, 4 will get a little spike, and then 3, 2, 1 will come a little spike, and I'll have 5 books that can generate me income at any time. So eventually, I can afford that expensive dinner. I'll wait at that expensive dinner. Sexy, right? Right. But I'm doing other things too. I'm creating merchandise. Again, the podcast is actually getting me to a point now where it's actually making a regular income, which is good, right? So I'm still working on doing this so that good income can just pay my bills and completely, and I wouldn't have to worry about anything. But more and more, as I've gone down this path, I am starting to see regular financial income from it. Now, it's not a lot of regular financial income, but it's
Right.
but it's regular now, right? And I find
I appreciate that $24.
Yeah.
You don't make very much off the sale of one book. It's not a lot of money, but regardless, I'm very thankful. It's not the reason that I wrote the book.
No, absolutely not.
Right, not the reason I started the podcast. And so I'm really thankful. Again, I come from this place of like gratitude and positivity where I followed who I am and did it. And if that in the end earns money, then that's kick-ass, right? That's super kick-ass. But
here's what this is just how I tend to look at this.
all right.
You meet the right people at the right places at the right times, and when it's ready, I think that opportunity. I don't know, how long have you been doing your podcast for?
May 2nd, 2020. So in another month is 3 years.
Okay, I've been doing my podcast for almost 5 years, right?
Yeah.
I've made an ass of myself so well, I even won a reward for it. So I mean, hey, I've done some stuff. I got money. Oh yeah, I'm actually an award-winning podcaster. Woohoo!
Oh, I know. I looked it up. I cyberstalked the hell out of you.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Anything
Sorry.
incriminating? Oh, I shouldn't.
No, it was so vanilla. We've got to step it up.
I'm sorry, right? But I'm sorry. No, it's just one of those things where it's just like I find this is what tends to happen. You do something long enough, and you do it your way long enough, people notice. Whether they realize it or they don't, people notice. It's funny because I almost stopped. Like I think episode 150. It's like I don't know if people are listening to this, and then the moment I asked that question, nope, people are listening to this, and now I'm finding myself going into like my own stuff. I'm going into worlds I never thought I'd end up going. Like I did a interview with a video game company. I'm now starting to get a hold of streamers and video game developers, and I'm starting to get into that world now, which is a really cool part of storytelling that I think it does get underrepresented right now. Video games, when done well, are an amazing art form. No matter what level, there's so many different like things about it. It's so damn cool. But I'm getting into this space now, and I never thought I never in my wildest dreams did I think that like I'd have this opportunity,
Exactly.
Yeah, and heck, I get the opportunity to talk to the amazing Jenn Taylor, who's hey, listen, it's cool. You've accomplished a lot. It sounds like again, and I wish. You sound incredibly well adjusted. You're very at peace with yourself, and I can definitely get that sense from you. I wish more people were like you in that they had that sense to them. But I also realize that you went through enough things so you know who you are, and you know what you are, you know what you're capable of, and you know that no matter what, you can survive. Whether that's true or not is another thing. But that's again, you have that attitude, and because you have that attitude, possibilities open themselves to you that you otherwise wouldn't have seen, right? And whereas someone is panicking and anxious and melting at the seams, these things just roll right by them, right? So
I love what you said about, we keep doing the same thing over and over again, wanting to make a difference. That's a theory of compound interest, which is one of my favorite. I could geek out on compound interest. Everything in life is compound interest, I think. So
Absolutely.
It's doing the same thing over and over and over, and having that avalanche, that domino effect. I've had a blog for 8.5 years, and I love it, and I'm not consistent on it anymore, but I still have it. And there's a period of time where I was trying to port it over, static page, this whole thing with an IT person helping me, and the website crashed, the blog crashed. I had 909 posts that I was trying to, and it was just a lot of content that I worked really hard with. It's like a baby, it's like writing that book, and I didn't want to lose that. And then I hit a point where I was like, who would even notice if I didn't port it over? And I shit you not, that same week, I had a comment on a blog post, and I went back, and it was a blog post from 3 years prior. Jen, I don't know if you're still writing anymore because everything had crashed. You couldn't find me, But I just want you to know it really made an impact, and I'm wondering how you're doing and what you're doing. And I was like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. Just keep doing what you're doing, and do it because you want to make a difference, or you're filling that void, or you're finding that niche, or you're curious about the story. And regardless of if people are listening, but you'll find that rule of compound interest, you're right. You'll talk to the right person, be in the right place at the right time, where suddenly things will start to click in place.
Would you like to hear my rules of success? Would you like to hear them? Rule 1, show up.
Yeah.
Sounds so fucking simple, but it is most people break that rule and rule 5. So we'll get the rule. Well, we'll get there. Rule 2.
Keep going.
Do your shit. Rule 3. Don't quit. It's the only cliche on the list, but honestly, it's the truth. 4. I mentioned this earlier. The rest is rain. There are things you just simply can't control, and you have to accept that. However, in those moments, opportunities often present themselves. Take advantage of them. My biggest successes have come from my failures. That's the honest truth. Rule 5. Get out of your fucking way. Just get out of your way. I think, honestly, fear of failure is nothing. Fear of success is actually far more terrifying than failure is. Because once you're successful, once people recognize you for what you do, people create an expectation of you. Whether and if you're smart, you recognize it. I actually had really good advice from Jonas Saul. Actually gave me some really good advice about that because he's starting to get to that really mega success, and it's like, yeah, so this is what you do. You recognize what you're doing, find healthy ways to let your ego out, right? And he admitted, it's like, just find healthy ways to do it, because that is the secret. You get it, because once you start accomplishing things and you know that you can accomplish them, it's easy to rest on your laurels, which is the first way you get in your own way. But the second one is to let your ego get to the point where you become that famous asshole everybody wants to avoid. Yeah, you're successful, so people will put up with you while that's going on. But eventually things run out. Everything has a finite amount of time, right? So get out of your own way. Shit, I haven't done these in so long. It's been a while. Be grateful. Be thankful. Gratitude is huge. No one has to help you. Do your thing. And I find that with a lot of people, you forget that. I find the fun thing most people want. There's 2 things people want in this, right? There's 2 things you can say to someone that are incredibly powerful if you merely mean them. I love you. Thank you. Right? It's amazing. It's amazing how many people don't do thank you. But I did this last year when I was leaving my place in Calgary. I thanked every worker I worked with. I could. The look on their faces, that, like, and not just them, other people too. The look on their faces when they were thanked, it was something they wanted that they did not realize they wanted. Someone to appreciate them for what they did, even if they were little things. It doesn't matter. People help you whether you realize it or not, right? And that's rule 6. Be grateful, be thankful. Rule 7, own your shit. Know what you're not good at. Be realistic. Be realistic in this sense that you're not good at everything, and you can't do everything on your own. So own your shit. And I forget my 8th rule. It's been a little while since I've done this. It's in my podcast, but those are the ones that. But those are the ones that really register. 1 in 5 are where people break themselves more often than not, right? Sometimes it's 3, but 1 in 5 tend to be what does it, right? I can't remember what rule 8 is, but I remember what rule 9. I do have a rule 9. Chase happiness. Don't chase wealth, chase happiness. You'll find that will come. That, I think, is where things tend to work out. You may not be rich. You don't need to be rich. You don't need very much in this life, truth be told, right? You just need, but if you chase happiness and you chase the things that are worthwhile in this life, you'll get them, right? And for however long you get them, and enjoy them, because time flies, right?
Yeah, it does. I turned 50 this year. When the hell did that happen? I mean,
I'm approaching 40. I'm approaching 40. I never thought like I'd see 40, but I enjoy growing older. I'm actually enjoying this. I love it. It goes by fast. Yeah. Oh no, I noticed after when I turned 30, time started to move quicker. Time like when I was like 1 through 30, like 4 through 30, it felt like it was going forever. 30. It started going a little quicker. Approaching 40, I don't think it's going to go that much faster at 40, but I think by the time I get to 50, it's going to go like this. Vroom, like you know, like I'm past. Now I'm racing, and now it's going to be like a race to and that's cool. So this guy here, like I said, I made peace with my mortality a long time ago. I realized that I only have so much time on this earth, and one day I'm going to die. But until that point, I got shit to do, and that's it. And that's what I worry about. right? And that's it. And when I get there, with the experience I had the first time, I know that, and maybe this is why I'm not scared of this at all. I know the end isn't what people think it is. And I think that I don't pretend to know the full answer of what it is, because I didn't, but it's not what people think it is. And I think I'm either going to go down one of two ways. I'm either going to go down, I'm either going to jump into the next adventure, or if I still got shit to do, I'm going to fight it tooth and nail with everything I got. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. It's going to depend on when it comes, but it's going to be one or the other. So, yeah.
It's a good way to live.
Yeah, well, life is about living, not dying. Right? Life is about living, not dying, and I got too much shit to do. So this hurry up, will you, so I can get back to doing my things and stuff. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So what's your podcast called?
The Naked Podcaster.
The Naked Podcaster, okay.
And I am naked on my podcast. No, you're not going to see anything, so get past that.
No, but I've had one pantsless edition on my podcast. It's not all it's cracked up to be anyway. So
yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's
I asked my guests to bear it all. And so it's the Naked Podcaster metaphorically because of that. When I went to video in January of 2020, I went naked. So I do it physically and you do it emotionally. And yep, it's about bearing it all. I want to get to the grit. If I have someone who has a large online presence and I can find information online, that's a great starting point, but that's not the shit I want to talk about.
No. They're the worst.
Right?
They're the worst interviews, actually. I can respect people.
Yeah.
I can respect people's privacy. Like you don't necessarily want to bear all to the world, and that's totally fine. You don't need to, but I don't want to talk about again, going back to the "how are you" metaphor, where we talked over earlier on, before this got recorded. I hate that question. By and large, I hate that question because no one answers it honestly, right? Until we actually answered it honestly off the air, right? But very, 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 I learned this in high school, and it stuck with me actually the whole time from high school. My teacher said, "How are you?" Good and fine are the worst two words in the English language.
Yeah, and nice. I agree.
Yeah, because they don't say anything. But we say these words when we don't have anything. We're afraid to say something. I don't want to do that. I would rather learn that you have a passion for cooking. I would rather discover that maybe, just maybe, right, you used to be a swords person, or maybe, just maybe, maybe you reenact Civil War stuff. It doesn't matter to me what you do, right? I'm more interested because that tells me more about who you are and what you love, and that gives me a genuine sense of who you are as a human being. I love that shit. That's why I do this podcast, right? I don't want, inauthentic, fake shit. I'm too old for that crap. I was too old for that crap when I was 20. I'm way too old for that crap now. I get bored quickly.
Yeah, and I think the genuine story, it is all about the story for me, just like for you. And I think the genuine story is so much more fascinating and rich. And I think people's hesitation is worrying that it's not good enough as the next person. And it is. It's always good enough if you really dig in. I've done over 150 episodes or interviews. I don't know how many, but I know it's over 150. And there's only been 3 that I've been like, that could have been better. I'm not in love with that one.
There's one interview I have on the podcast. That was unexpected chaos in the worst possible way. It was like I just walked into something. It was like, okay, this is the environment. Oh God, okay. And that interview's up for people to listen to if they want to go back and listen to it. But I won't advertise it because I personally don't care for it, and I'll even tell you why off the air. Right? That's right. I'll tell you exactly why. But it was just like, but it's there. If you know what, it's part of my story too. It was a good learning process, right? And that's the thing, right? You learn, and like I said, not everybody's built the same way either, too. So it's just kind of one of those. It's kind of one of those.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't be on my podcast. You don't have to bear everything about your entire life, but if we're talking about your eating disorder, we're going to go deep on your eating disorder. You're going to bear your shit about that.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me every single thing about your life. You can even omit some things from that story, but I want other people who have ever suffered with an eating disorder to be like, oh my God, the this person gets me, right? Or whatever your story is.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to go deep, don't get on the Naked Podcaster, for sure.
Well, there's another aspect to it too. Like I had to learn this. I had to fix my teeth, and there was a. I remember the night I went to the dentist. I actually broke down and cried a little bit because it wasn't really about just fixing the teeth. Like my teeth were busted as a result of my experience a few years back, and for a little bit it was like a battle scar because I survived at that point the trial of my life, and you don't want to forget that or dismiss that so easily. So, but what ends up happening is if there's anything left over, if there's anything that really needs to be dealt with internally, right, and fix it, well, the teeth aren't the teeth represent that. So intellectually, about 3 years ago, I decided I was going to fix my teeth, finally, right, or at least take steps to start fixing my teeth. And unfortunately, this year is going to be an interruption to that process, but. Like, that because of just the nature of what's going on right now. But down the road, like a few years from now, I'm going to keep going down that process because it's not done, but it's started. I built a foundation. Now I just want to keep building on it. But I remember the night. I remember I went and did when I first made the decision to fix my teeth. I had to be honest with myself because for like a month I was angry and depressed. I couldn't figure out why. Like honestly, it blew my mind. And then I realized it's because all the stuff that I didn't fix when I made peace a long time ago with certain things is now bubbling up to the surface. And now I need to deal with all my shit. So when I finally went to the dental chair to really take that very first step, I remember that the night I cried. Because it wasn't just, it was me coming to terms psychologically with the situation I was in. I felt incredibly helpless in that situation. And I had to look at that honestly. It's like there was nothing I could do. Like I was just in this situation, in this moment. There was nothing I could do. No, I just had to go through it. This had to happen, and you had to own those emotions, and you had to go like, okay, this is what I feel. I cried. The next day, I went for surgery, and I was a mess for about a week. I took a week off. I took a week off work, and I was on light duty the week after just because of the blood clots and stuff. And I remember it was. What's the term? It was a very, it was honest because I had to be very honest with myself in a way, and I had to put myself for the first time vulnerable. My armor was gone, right? I had no armor. I was vulnerable, and ironically, that's when we're at our strongest. Not our weakest, our strongest is when we take our armors off, because all we're dealing with, all that's there is us and the pain, whatever our pain is, and you have to wrestle with it. There's someone I really care about. She sends me writing stuff, but she doesn't get into the specifics of some of the things she wants to share with, and I realize why that is. It's because there's a confidence issue in dealing with whatever issues she has. The more specific you are, the more specific you are as a person in terms of your vision and outlook and things of that nature, right? The more you can make a vision real. The vaguer you make your mission statement, the harder it is to achieve whatever it is you're going to. But the more specific and concrete it is, it's almost like life reflects your mind. Those opportunities just magically come to you because you are ready for these specific things to happen, right? But you gotta be specific and be confident enough in yourself to be specific with those issues. And I realize that's hard for a lot of people to do. Me, again, as you can hear, I can blab on for days and days and days and days. I've gotten comfortable with it. And I find it has given me such freedom. But again, it's coming to that point when you're ready to do it. I think that's very hard for some people to do.
It is, and then so they're not there yet. They're the ones that would get help from listening to the podcast and not necessarily be a guest for the podcast. Yeah. But it doesn't diminish the fact that their story isn't just as good.
Oh, absolutely
not. I hate
not.
that term as the next person's because we all have that story. So when people are ready to share it and really get gritty with it, then I'm the podcast to be on. You know, I love the shit show and I love the success that happens afterwards. I love the tools that people build in the midst, like you said, your greatest achievements come in those moments of struggle, and they truly do. And 100% of entrepreneurs, they've launched their business as a direct result of some of their biggest struggles. I love to make that connection. It's so fascinating to me to connect, what they're doing with their life to make money and connecting it with the struggles they went through and the skills. And I think a lot of people have the same intent. They want to make someone else's struggle faster and easier and better and more supported than theirs was. And, so I mean, it's all in the story, and I love the story. So I think it's super exciting, and I love when people are brave enough to just come on and get gritty and cry and unload and then share the successes that came out of it. I love that.
It's real. It's real.
It's real.
Yeah, and the thing is, people know when you're genuine. I mean, it's an honest thing. A good presentation is definitely a great tool for whatever it is you do, and it's certainly where I struggle. It's my biggest weakness when I go out and do things. Right? I generally, when I was younger, especially, I really didn't give a shit. But now that I'm old, because to me it always felt like you were pretending to be something you're not. But there's something to say about getting people in a position to be taken seriously. But if you don't have something real, something positive, something passionate you're passionate about, something that you love, people aren't going to connect with you, right? Or the people that are going to connect with you are not the people you want to connect with you. They're going to be the people that are still in a boat of, they're looking for that own connection in life, that own connection in what you're doing, and it doesn't, and you find people in the same boat you are, and they just don't, and you're not any closer. Whereas if you're open and you're genuine and you're passionate, you'll find people that are open and they're genuine, they're passionate, and it might not be the exact same things you are, but you'll find that same feeling, that same growth, that same spirit, for lack of a better term, is there. And that is the best. That is the absolute best kind of connection out there, and people gravitate to it, because I think that's what we ultimately all want when we connect with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Did we have a good interview here?
I think we had a blast. We had super fun.
Yes. I made you smile a few times. I made you smile a few times. Yes. I made you smile. I made you laugh a little bit. Right? Yeah. So I got one last question, and then we'll go to the wonderful promotion. And this is just a personal thing, because you are a caretaker. Like you definitely are somebody I can feel like that you love. You take charge. You like helping people, and that's a big thing of what you do. Did you ever consider becoming a doctor or psychologist or anything like that? I'm just curious personally myself, because those are the more traditional ways of doing stuff like that. And I'm curious why you went obviously there's a personal connection, but you could have gone into like social work of some kind. So why didn't you? Or did you?
That's a great question. No, yes and no. When I worked at the nonprofit, it was actually for foster kids, and it was a nonprofit that dealt with treatment level foster kids, which are the toughest of the tough. They've just come in or out of juvie or mental hospitals. They're the kids that have suffered the most trauma and abuse, and they because of that, have some of the biggest behavior problems. And I train parents to be able to work with them. So I did not get my degree, my bachelor's degree. I do not have a bachelor's degree in anything. I didn't get my degree in social work, but I could train a social worker. So in that aspect, I have training. Yeah, so I could teach suicide awareness and crisis prevention and all of this really happy stuff. So I remember when I graduated a year early. I was 17, and I went to college, and we took the Myers-Briggs test in college in our freshman seminar, and it stuck with me a lot. I'm fascinated by taking personality tests, because I think you learn a lot about yourself. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I'm an ENFJ, for all of those who are wondering. I'm the giver, clearly, and it talked about areas of study you could go into that kind of matched your personality, and the number one on the list was being a pastor. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, you could do it. No, you could do it.
Yeah,
you could totally do it. You could totally do it. Yeah.
And then there's therapy, and then I have certifications in coaching. So I do coaching and I do public speaking. And my main platform for public speaking is compounding joy. It's using the theory of compound interest with small daily actions to increase your gratitude and joy. I mean, like, that's totally the person that I am, right? You said you don't need much to live. I'm minimalist because I think you by decreasing a lot of stuff, you decrease stress. So yes, I could have gone in lots of different directions in therapy, and it would have maybe been fine. I chose to get married at 19 years old. Now, for all of my kids who are 19 years old, I will slap you. Don't do it. What were you thinking? All of that stuff. And it's a marriage no one really knows that much about. We were only together for 3 years. I did go through infertility. We were in the military, an Air Force dependent during that time. I have great memories. Really good guy. I did get pregnant with my first daughter with him. But that interruption in my life in the middle of my college career kind of changed my trajectory. That does not mean I couldn't have gone back later and done that. And then I remarried, and he was a doctor. So I didn't have to finish. And isn't that nice? I got to do foster care. I got to do all the things that I wanted to do. And I got to tell him about that before we got married, because I'd already been through infertility. I already had a daughter. I already knew what I wanted to do with my life as far as helping other kids. And I was blessed that I didn't have to work to provide an income. So I didn't go back to school.
Fair enough.
So there's no big rhyme or reason why I didn't. I actually was a communications and psychology major when I was in college, and I loved journalism. And so I'm not doing really anything different than if I'd gotten my degree. I'm doing the exact damn same thing that I would have done. But I don't have that piece of paper that says BA that allowed me to have better paying jobs when I found myself divorced again. So I would have to say I don't have regrets in my life, but I encourage my children strongly to do things differently. And that doesn't mean don't have kids young. I mean, I planned it. I wanted to. I don't have any regrets as far as that goes. But definitely think outside of the box from an earlier age. College and getting your bachelor's is not necessarily the answer. It's one way to do things. And I learned there's lots of different ways to do things. And pretty much from the time I was 17 to now, this year when I turned 50, I am still doing the same thing that I was going to college for. I just did it in a very out-of-the-box, unorthodox way. So how freaking cool is that?
So would you like my theory about education?
Yeah, go ahead.
Education, why do teachers exist? The reason teachers exist is because their primary job is not necessarily to teach you the knowledge you need. Although that's something they should do. They're really good at it. But it's to give you permission to go do the things you need to do. You don't need permission. And that's why you never went back. And that's why you never went back.
I just did it my way.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need permission. You just did it.
And I realized also when I had to do a resume after 10 years staying home with my kids, 15 years ago, I had to do this resume thing and go back into the workforce. I built a resume based on skills and not based on papers that gave me the right. And having 18 kids and raising them and being a stay-at-home mom and helping run a dental practice because my ex-husband's a dentist, and I built a tremendous set of skills, and so that's how I went forward into the corporate world. Yeah. And it gave me, I think in the movie Taken, Liam Neeson says I have a very select skill set, and it's my favorite line in all movies, because that's how I felt. Oh my God, I have a very unique skill set, and I can use it in any way that I want, and it can look very out of the box, and that's what I did. So that's how I built my corporate world. And then at the end of the corporate life, when the nonprofit kind of didn't do funding, I realized I've built more skills in my skill set over that next 10 years. So what do I want to do with that? How can I package that and present it in a way that works in a completely different way? So I took all of those skills and I put them together. So I did get coaching certificates, and I did the right things in the right way to make people feel like you got your shit together and you know what you're doing. But basically, where I learned it was on the street is where I learned it. That's where I gained most of my skill sets.
Experience is the best
teacher. And not in college.
Yeah, it is. I think. Yeah, me and you are a lot alike. But it sounds to me like you're very content in your life, and it sounds like you've had a very fun one. And I hope someday I get you back on the show. We'll talk about less about what's going on now and more about maybe what you did with some of the crazy things you did then and what you learned. because that'd be kind of cool.
I love it. That would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
So let's get to the wonderful promotion stuff. So you can talk about your book if you'd like, talk about your podcast, and how can people find you?
The easiest way for people to find me is momof18.com. It's MONOF18, the numbers.com. All my social media links are there. Instagram is my favorite. You can find my emails there. There's a contact page, which you can totally use, but my email's there, so why would you use a contact page? Just email me. I love people connecting with me, so that is absolutely the easiest thing. The book is there. If you want to purchase it and have a copy, or you want to pay for it, even though I'll send it to you, you can feel free to do that, because I have to take, Josh out to lunch.
That's right. That's right.
You need that income,
That's right.
The podcast is there, the book is there. I post my podcast on like 34 platforms. I mean, it's just freaking ridiculous. So put in the Naked Podcaster and it'll pop up. But really, the website's the easiest way. So, yep, I'll send you the book. You can listen to the podcast. If you're interested in being a guest, the answer is yes. Just sign up. And that's the easiest way. That's my massive self-promotion.
Sweet. And that was my conversation with Jenn Taylor. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one. She's super, super chill. I really dig just her vibe. And I mean, she's done an awful lot of cool things, and she's still doing an awful lot of cool things. Check out her podcast. Check out momof18.com. Jenn, thank you very much for coming on my show. You are more than welcome to come back anytime you want. All right? Till then, though, it was a pleasure, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to do your show sometime. That's not all, though. I have been crazy busy. I've just been doing so many different things these last few days. I kind of feel like I'm 12. I wrote in the last 2 days, I've written about zombies, punches in the face, weed, comics, manga. I'm working on that right now. Cupcakes, and unicorns. If that doesn't make me 12 years old, I don't know what does. But speaking of young prodigies, okay, that was a terrible segue. I acknowledge this, but it's still important. I'm doing a special live Just Joshing Zoomcast with the one and only Sofia Evangelina. And Sofia, I'm a big fan of hers. I've been a long time, and I'm definitely going to be doing some stuff in the next couple days while this book launch is going on to advertise her as well. Sofia is, she's incredible. Like, I love her singing voice. I'm going to tell the story here real quick, how I discovered her. A mutual friend of ours posted a picture of this girl singing. And now, at first, I made the mistake of thinking, okay, this is just a family portrait. And I just said, okay, I'm just going to hear her sing, because, this has to be something. Holy crap. Sofia is a larger-in-life personality, singer, musician, and businesswoman, and I can't wait to do this interview, and I hope you guys will tune in. It will be live. I will be doing a special edition of Just Joshing. It's coming up real soon, so definitely check it out. Alright guys, that'll do it for Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a bunch of different ways right now. So you can support it by subscribing to the podcast. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, as well as the Podomatic. You can choose which one you want to subscribe to. Hit the subscribe button. Share the podcast to as many people as possible. That'd be so cool. My book, The Cloud Diver, is available for pre-order everywhere in the world now on Amazon. You can click the Amazon link. The Amazon main link will be on there, but there's one for each country region. Click the order form. Click you like it. Go do it. I'm looking for readers, reviewers, still for that. My Zoomcast with Sofia Evangelina is Sunday, May 17th, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And I think for now that'll do it. Thanks everybody for listening, and I'll talk to you guys this weekend.
Josh.